You're listening to the Hypnotic Empath, and I'm your host, Robyn Holm. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, a body talk practitioner, and an empowered empath with over 2 decades of experience helping sensitive souls like you reconnect with your power. This podcast is a space for deep healing, subconscious transformation, and real-world support. We'll do some guided hypnotherapy sessions, we'll talk to some incredible guests, and we'll help you learn to release what isn't yours, to protect your energy, and to finally feel safe being you. It's time to move from surviving to thriving. Let's get started. Good morning and welcome to the Hypnotic Empath. It is Thursday, which is podcast day. And normally I would be doing a solo one-on-one episode. And it has been the craziest week for me here at home. I've had so much going on and I have not been able to complete my solo one-on-one episode. So instead, today, I am introducing you to one of my very dearest friends, Deanne Crewe. I am so excited about this conversation. I've been waiting to produce it, and I think you're going to love it so much. Deanne is just a wealth of knowledge and insight. She's been one of my dearest friends for 15 years. We come from the body talk world together. We trained in body talk together. And her specialty is spirit baby communication. So whether or not you yourself are on a fertility journey, this conversation has so much in it. It isn't just about spirit babies. It's about intuition and where are we before we are here, and designing your life and that co-creation that we go through with our children before they're even here. So I hope you love it. It is such a beautiful, beautiful episode. Deanne has a few offerings that she talks about throughout the episode that I think will really help you, especially if you're on a fertility journey. We talk a lot about how her work and my work go really, really well together because I work on the subconscious blocks and she works on the energetic blocks. So if you are on a fertility journey and you're looking for a hypnotherapist, I used hypnotherapy to conceive my own kids along with Deanne's work. So more than happy to talk to you about that. You are not alone. And would love to hear what you think of this episode. So here's my conversation with Deanne. Deanne Crewe. She is a spirit baby medium, intuitive healer, and galactic channel who has supported thousands of clients worldwide for over a decade. Her work blends grounded intuition with expansive spiritual connection, guiding clients through everything from pre-birth soul communication to interdimensional healing and cosmic wisdom. At the heart of her work is the belief that every soul longs to be remembered, and that every parent can co-create with their spirit baby through love, alignment, and conscious connection. Deanne, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me on. It's so lovely to see you in your gift too today.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So would you just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do? And I'll just say for our listeners that Deanne and I very first met over a decade ago now in a body talk training. So when we were very first training and certifying to be body talk practitioners, that is how we met. We saw each other across the room and it was love at first sight. And
love it per pants sight.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know. I admired your boots. You admired my pants. And then we started talking and we have never stopped since. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Yeah. So again, my name is Deanne. I am pretty much an energy worker, open channel to all things, a curious being to the other side. Besides my work and all that I do with energy, I'm also a mother of 2 beautiful girls. So I've had my own experiences with motherhood, conscious parenting, spirit babies, and all that. My start in all of this, honestly, I think even goes back before spirit babies really presented themselves. I had a health journey very, very young, and it was always difficult to heal and left me with a lot of chronic issues. And so I think at that time, it really stemmed into what are our bodies? What is healing? Why are we here? It created more questions. And from there, it led into, I would say, the discovery or the draw into healing our bodies in a different way than, say, just through the regular medical community or field, or even beyond holistic healing, which I love naturopathic medicine and all that, but it just was like something else is missing. So in an actuality, I feel like my life was a big segue into my career based on my own journey through my health. So when I started to land in practitioners' offices that were doing energy healing, it sparked something in me that was like, can I do this? Like, I've always been an intuitive. Could I do this? I started to have like a calling for it. So I knew early on, like probably around 19, 20, 21, I was starting to become interested in energy healing and get into it, but I didn't know what that modality would look like. It's not like I was channeling really at that time. I wasn't running around psychically reading people. I just knew I was intuitive. And then, flash forward a bit, my husband, who was my partner at the time, we met and we were contemplating family, having children one day, getting married and such. And we were doing a joint meditation and a little girl appeared to me, and I sat with it for a while. And I remember telling Keith, I think our daughter is here, or some child came in, and he's like, oh, I always wanted a little girl, and I'm like, me too. So this was all in my 20s, like from 20 to 25, I was having big questions about how to heal my body beyond the physical. And how can I maybe bridge my intuitive gifts into that? And so I started taking trainings like Reiki, meditational trainings, just dabbling, reading a lot of books. And then I was also experiencing actually my spirit baby, but I had no idea it was called spirit babies until I met you. So this is also part of our kismet connection, you and I, because when we met in our body talk, so then a couple more years, I was like, I'm going to take body talk. I'm going to, learn some more energy skills here. Right. And I fell in love with body talk as a client first. I felt like a lot of relief. It was the first thing that actually felt like I had the potential to heal again, was when I had body talk. And I remember just thinking, wow, my soul's back. My mom even said the next day, she's like, your eyes are glowing, like you're back, like something's, come alive again in you. And I was like, I feel that. So I didn't want to stop at just being a client of it. I was like, I think I'm ready to take this training. And then, you and I met in our very first training, and we had a very, I would say, kismet connection, very synchronistic in the sense of where you were, in your journey and where I was in my journey. And so when we were working together, spirit babies kept coming in for both of us over and over again. And it was you who I've talked on other podcasts about. My friend, she's this one who gave me this book and was like, Dee, this is what you're doing. And I'm like, it's what? It's called spirit babies? Like, this is an actual modality. And when I read the book, I realized, okay, I'm not crazy.
Walter McCutcheon, is that how you say
his
name?
McCutcheon. I think it's, and it's Spirit Babies, How to Communicate with the Child You're Meant to Have.
I'll link to that in the show notes because that book is really great.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's a beautiful for those that are established and just beginning, right? It's a book that serves all. So it's a wonderful approach to the world of spirit babies. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. That's kind of how I started in all of this. And it just grows year by year as, as an energetic person, when there's consciousness shifts in you, your work changes. It mirrors you. So as you evolve, your work evolves and so on.
I remember when we were first training in body talk, Deanne and I would get together every week to practice. This was before we had kids. We'd get together every week to practice. And I remember at that time, as we were establishing our businesses, we were both like, what are we going to specialize in? What are we going to specialize in? There was just this question that we felt like we had to answer. And I remember somebody along the way saying, you don't choose your specialty chooses you. And that was definitely the case with your spirit baby work, because I can definitely say that you weren't planning on going into fertility when I met you 15 years ago, right? That was not on your radar. And you haven't even had a fertility journey yourself. And yet the spirit babies chose you. And I always thought about you and other people that I worked with on my own long fertility journey as these portal holders. you hold the portal open for these babies to come through, and they're able to communicate with you and you with them, and you bridge that gap between them and their parents. And when I read that book by Walter McCutcheon, I was like, I need someone to bridge this gap for me, because at that time I was having a hard time communicating with my own spirit babies, even though I believed that they were there. And
Mhm.
so when I brought that to you, I was like, can you do this for me? Like, can you communicate with my spirit baby? And you were like, I don't know, let's see. And
Mhm.
then we did. And that's how it started. So my son, that was the beginning. Like I always say, he was like your first client, because
He
he was the
was.
first spirit baby that we were just playing around, right? We were just like, why not? Why can't we do this? And can we do this? And I think that is how, I think that's such an important thing, is to be able to just be curious. You said in your intro that you're a very curious human, and thank God. I'm so glad that you're so curious, because it was that ability to be able to say, why not? Let's see if we can.
And it's through people like you and your experiences that have allowed me to place spirit babies in a modality for myself. Like, I'm proudly self-taught. I didn't take a course. I sat in curiosity over and over, day by day, recorded, wrote it down, pondered, asked that realm, to really understand. Was a very lived in experience for myself alongside clients and friends like you. Because I didn't know anything either. I was like, what's happening? He's in your house. He's hanging around your house. Right.
And what does it mean then to be a channel or a medium? What is happening there? Do you know?
So I do feel like some part of my brain or my head is, if I was to put this really physically, some part of my head is opened. Like, I just feel that there's like a long tube or a tunnel where stuff is just landing, or I hear it. I'm also very much a clairvoyant, so I can close my eye and my third eye and see everything. So it'd be no different to if I went into a house, I can close my eyes or feel or see what a spirit looks like if it was in a house. So for me, it's like, almost like a chute or a tunnel where that frequency can send me information to my frequency. And of course, I'm going to have some filters in there. So they will play on my filters, right? So if they know that I have a body talk background, they'll place an information in maybe a way that I have learned or understand energy through my training, or through maybe even a symbol that I've grown to use. So it's almost like I receive it, and then my brain probably places, I would say, filters or things to give me the proper way to deliver. Because it's not like it's English to English all the time. It could be a feeling, and I still have to speak it into a form through my filters. So there's also this importance, I think, of a channel to be in your curiosity, because you don't want to get too involved in what you think you should say, right? Your filters have to be pretty flexible, to not have your own agenda or priority with them when you're channeling, because you want it to be fairly pure.
And does it
So,
depend on who you're talking to? Like, will the information change based on who you were channeling for? Like, what parent you're working with?
you know what? It's actually based on the spirit itself. So, because I can deliver messages in a lot of different ways. But if I'm communicating with a spirit baby, some spirit babies are very telepathic with me. Some are sentient with me. They make me feel. Some will just look at me and talk to me very clairvoyantly. Others, play things like a movie in telepathy as well. So when I connect with a spirit baby specifically, I can get an understanding of their communication style. And then I meet them to that communication style. So I'll often bridge that information over to the client and give them tips and tools on how to communicate with the spirit baby based on perhaps the communicative style that spirit baby is in. And sometimes that might be a mismatch to the mother or parent. The mother may be, say, very clairvoyant, but you have a very heavy sentient feeling baby, and they have to learn that. So for a very long time, they might feel, I don't feel my spirit baby. I can't connect with them, but the way that their communication is coming in is a bit different. So it's we have to learn to the different senses in a way, and the different communication styles, because sometimes it's not the same as our baby. And I've really recognized that because I have preferred communication styles for myself when I channel or when I'm psychically reading somebody, but I've had to learn to receive something differently. And that's been trial and error for myself as a reader, but then it's helped me be able to teach clients.
So how do you teach them? How do you teach clients?
Yeah. So, again, it could be, do we have to get more grounded and somatic in our body? Do we have to not put a form to a spirit baby, but rather a pressure or a feeling? So if we're calling in, actively making a call into our spirit baby, could we then close our eyes and sense where in my body do I feel more pressure when I'm asking for that call in, when I'm asking for connection with my spirit baby? It might feel around your shoulder. Maybe it's always in your heart center. Maybe it's your pelvis. Maybe it's above your head. Those can also be indicators of what the spirit baby may be trying to communicate with you, or where they're actually sitting for conception purposes. So sometimes it can be simply just starting that way. There can also be where they'll use like universal signs, right? So some clients, if they're struggling to make direct contact with the spirit, you can ask for universal signs. So that can be anything from numbers to, common ones, coins, feathers, birds, butterflies, really anything that you can actually choose and specifically ask your spirit baby to use it. Or perhaps you already have it, and every time you see a certain symbol or sign in your universe, you think of your spirit baby. That is your spirit baby giving you a sign and symbol. So beginning those ways can be very easy, accessible beginner entries before you start to maybe close your eyes and visualize them. And that may be, for some people, their entryway is the visualization, and the sentience or the feeling might come later.
Mm-hmm. For me, with my babies, they used to communicate through bald eagles. Mm-hmm. My first two, they would communicate through bald eagles. So I would see a bald eagle, and that's not a super common thing. But man, did I see a lot of bald eagles at very specific times when I was looking for a sign.
Yep.
And I remember with my daughter, she would communicate through butterflies. That was, yeah. And so that was a really nice thing to have that awareness and to build up that faith. And I found that when I was working with you, what really helped me was making it real. Every time we would work together, I would build up more and more faith in my baby, knowing that you get to know that baby, on the other side before they even incarnate. And I will say that as I got to know them, they are exactly that way now here on the other side. And it was such a relief after such a long fertility journey to have that faith being bolstered up, to know that they were coming, that they were real. They were real. And having you interpret that for me in the beginning was so amazing. And then being able to have a place that I could go and connect with them on my own was really great. But you really set that up for me, and that was such a relief.
Yeah. One of the ways you're speaking to I think what you did a lot too, which I place a term called conscious daydreaming to it now. And it's essentially this can be a way of communicating without putting so much pressure on a meditation or meditational practice, if that feels out of reach or not a go-to for some. But essentially you're living your everyday life with the daydream or the conscious intention that your spirit baby is right next to you, or your child is. So when you go out for a walk, you're putting on your running shoes, and you're also silently saying, come on, baby, we're going for a walk. And you might have a quick picture or feeling that you are maybe pushing a stroller, or you're grabbing the child's hand and you're out, la, 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 like we're just going to go kind of dance in the rain, doing things in your everyday life, but having the mental note that it's wider than just you. And actually I can feel my baby or babies here, or maybe my whole family, if you're wanting to manifest that. So that can help to just like, no different than if you were manifesting or wanting to daydream a vacation, right? You're like, oh, I really want to be at the beach. I can really feel the warmth, and ooh, it would be so nice to have a little, pina colada, whatever your vibe is, right? You start to already feel it. It's no different. And you let your imaginary part of the brain, which is highly linked to your intuition, You let that part play out and invite your spirit baby. Before you know it, you'll be having conversation in a lighthearted way that's also manifesting. And that creates a biofeedback system to also your pituitary gland, which sets out signals to your hormones.
You know what's so neat about that too is that the subconscious mind is the place where we do our imagination. And when we manifest in the way that you're talking about and in that daydreaming, we're putting it as a foregone conclusion into the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind doesn't understand the difference between yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So if it's happened in your imagination, it's happened in your subconscious mind. The subconscious mind just thinks it's happened and it's going to
Yeah.
go ahead and connect the dots for you then. I loved what you were saying about how the pineal pituitary and the hormonal signal. Could you say more about that?
Yeah. So part of what I love to work in with, when I started spirit baby work, I thought I was just going to communicate with spirit babies, but then obviously it turns into how do we bridge them here? How do we help clients with that? Because as in the world of fertility, I either get the ones that are just newly curious or get the ones that have tried everything and they're in delayed conception. So supporting those and those more delayed conceptions, or even those that are just starting, it's a beautiful thing to understand alignment and bridging your spirit baby into and through the portal of your body. So when we become the bridge, we have to open the very first part of our bridge, which is our pineal pituitary. And these are really big gateways for permission and for seeing our truth. And so if we're opening to permission and we give permission for a baby to come through, it then can send this to the pituitary, and the pituitary sends that truth down to the ovaries. It's essentially like saying, okay, this is what I'm giving permission for. Look, here's the vibration and energy of my baby. And my baby's going to look for something very specific from me or for me. Let's send that to the ovaries. So whether you're doing a natural conception or other fertility methods, and say we are utilizing our own eggs and we're utilizing our own and DNA or genetics, this gives a beautiful imprinting start to that very specific spirit baby. Part of the bridge, that's one part of the conception opening that we want to activate. And that in activation alone can already open up that head channel to connect deeper to the spirit baby. When we do an alignment opening or activation for the individual, not only for the potential mother, but also the potential conception partner, we create a better access point to be able to communicate with your spirit babies. It's almost like I was talking about in the beginning, how I can feel this opening channel in my head. You, the conception holder, if that's your journey, you want to be as kind of open as you can in your channel and in your conception channel. And by doing that and activating that, you can better understand, link, and feel your spirit baby. So that's part of my work too, that I feel passionate about, is gifting tools or alignments to help the clients that want to gain better access or are looking for different ways to consciously conceive. Those are all, fundamental support techniques that I offer for my clients. Yeah, including honestly the usage of donors and surrogate.
How does that work?
Yeah, it's very interesting. So when we're creating conception alignment, especially with a conception partner, sometimes that involves energetically and in the field, the quantum field or the energetic field, bringing in the surrogate, bringing in the donors and seeing how that energy aligns prior to maybe even doing any work with them. So it gives us, again, like you kind of said, in the subconscious, it gives this format for your body or your energy to already have a map, to already have a layout. And is that accessible? Is that feeling good? Does that work? So we do a lot of this work almost prior to an actual picking of a donor or the invitation to a surrogate. We want to kind of do that prior because it's setting a foundation, it's setting the field to begin to feel in alignment with us so we can attract what we need. And our spirit baby helps with that. They're almost like a runner. If someone needs a runner to go run an errand, your spirit baby can become the runner between you and a donor, you and a surrogate, you and a conception partner.
I remember when we were conceiving our son, we did use IVF for both of our kids actually. And I remember being worried about the fact that with IVF, the type that we were doing was where they take the sperm, it's called ICSI, they take the sperm and they inject it into the egg. And there is a natural part of selection in a natural conception where the sperm and the egg choose each other. And I was really worried. I was really hung up on the fact that that wasn't going to get to happen for us. It would be the tech that was going to be choosing the sperm. And then through some of our work and then through my own meditation, I asked my spirit baby to help choose the sperm that would go with the egg. And then to also choose the embryo that was going to get transferred for us. Because it's like, what if you choose the wrong one? And how many do we do? And all of the questions that come with IVF. We really put that onto my child. Like, you pick. You're the one that knows best. We're just here giving you, help me. And we're just here giving you opportunities. We'll just keep swinging the bat and providing bodies. And you can help to orchestrate which one you want to choose and what body you want to come in. And I still have that visual of my spirit baby over the petri dish where the embryos were, like orchestrating everything. That was a really strong visual for me. And I was able to hold on to that and really trust him to orchestrate his perfect body. What do you think of that?
I love that. I that's what we would call conscious conception.
Okay.
So a lot of clients start to feel disheartened if they're suddenly having to use an alternative conception method. But I help clients move through, hey, there's a way to do it in conscious conception. There's a way to do it very consciously and to involve your spirit baby so it doesn't feel like they're missing a beat or they're not held in a womb-like space. So there are definitely ways, and you just said it just perfectly, to, again, access and ask your spirit baby for help, ask them to go and participate in this part, give them permission, update them, communicate that with them. And again, if you don't see them, just even saying it out loud, having a conversation in your mind, that's like sending it out. So
I think that's
that's
such
perfect.
a powerful thing. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say that would be a classic way to move through that beautifully.
Yeah, because I did have to work on the part of me that felt like I should be able to just conceive on my own. I remember you saying to me at one point when we did need to use IVF, you were like, well, if you lost a limb, would you turn down a prosthetic? Like, there are ways that you can have these assistances. And that's okay, because I mean, IVF also involves a lot of pharmaceuticals, and I'm not a huge pharmaceutical person. And I think about that often where I'm like, if it wasn't for pharmaceuticals, my kids would not be here. So I'm super grateful for them. And going into the energy of that gratitude for the tool is really helpful.
Yeah, I always say these are gifts. We have gifts all around us, whether they are in the pharmaceutical world, whether they're in the holistic field, wherever they may find you. It's about whether the time that you need that gift, you're in alignment with it. So they can all be gifts if we allow and see them that way, or if we're ready for them, or if that's part of our choice. And so there is a part where it's not the end all be all. It has to still be conscious. It has to be involved. There has to be participation of you. You can't just, I don't suggest okay, great. I've got support. Someone's going to do it for me reproductively. No, you're like you just did. You were so involved in the process behind the scenes. And that is huge for the success, I would say, and for the spirit baby to feel linked into the process as well. So they're definitely gifts. And yet at the same time, if it's not time for that gift, or you don't view it as a gift, or you never will, then it's not your gift. But it can be for a lot of people. And if it's the right time and we're in alignment with the gift, then we're nice and open to receive it. And when we receive it, the chemical hormones, or whatever we want to call them, the pharmaceuticals, they land better in our systems. They're less agitating in our systems. We receive them a lot better.
Absolutely. And I had 5 embryo transfers before that one, that the very first pregnancy that I had 5 embryo transfers over, a 7-year period. And so different. I mean, I remember with all those other transfers, wasn't connected in with the spirit baby. I didn't know who I was calling in. I didn't have that assuredness. and the alignment wasn't the same. It was
Mhm.
so different once I knew who was coming.
Mhm.
And that faith and that just being so assured that this was happening. And I didn't know the timing. I didn't know exactly when, but I knew that my baby was coming, and it was either going to
Mhm.
be through this IVF or something better, something
Mhm.
greater, right?
Mhm.
Part of that. So that faith is such an important piece of the puzzle. So how
Yeah.
do you work with people? What is it like when you're working with a client? What are the ways that you work with clients? What are options for people?
Yeah. So I am remote, I guess you could say, or predominantly online. I don't see anybody in person. I always say, a huge telepathic healer. I do everything well at a distance and through my mind's eye. I've always been that way, even when I saw people in person. So with spirit babies stuff specifically, I like to start with a spirit baby reading. That gives me this general perspective and outline of what's happening in spirit first. So I work from the consciousness and spirit baby, say misalignments back into the physical body. So often clients want to go straight into, something that's physically not happening. And can you tell me what's wrong with my physical body? But in actuality, we start outside of the body and we go into the spirit baby realm, and I see what your spirit babies are doing, because oftentimes that will just influence what's happening in your physical. So what I'm looking for in those, not only do we go into some really, really fun details about your spirit babies, you know, perceptions of who they are, their purpose, what they look like, personality, past lives, courtings. But I'm also looking for, hey, does the spirit baby look withdrawn? Does the spirit baby have a story to tell me that's maybe bothering or blocking them from wanting to come in right now? Can we get a sense if the spirit baby's even ready to conceive or wants to conceive? Can we get a sense if there's maybe a conception lineup issue between spirit babies? Spirit babies can, I've seen it where I've read for a client who wasn't in a relationship, has wonderful spirit babies, and then suddenly they join up with a partner and they're finally going to start having kids. Well, that partner brings in their own spirit baby. When that happens, you have a whole realignment of your spirit baby's conception lineups. They have to reevaluate then who's coming first. And the mother may have held a idea of, my spirit babies are coming and now I'm trying to get my spirit babies here and they're not coming through. Well, have we overlooked that there is another one that actually is supposed to come first, and we're not actually giving permission? We're not seeing it because all we want is ours. Right? So sometimes it's like, oh, there's another one. Oh, I got to make room for that. Oh, and then suddenly we're giving a different permission. Again, pineal gland, a different permission for a baby, a different baby to perhaps come in first. So we're looking at things like that. So it gives me besides the client just receiving some really juicy information, I'm also looking at, hey, is there any blocks right off the bat that I can pick up that the spirit babies really want to show me today, that we can clear, that we can get in alignment? And then I typically look at follow-up readings where we work on more of the heavy lifting, some of the conception alignment things. Even stuff further down the road when, say, a client is going through something really big like IVF, how can we support them and meet them in all areas that feel really big and kind of scary maybe, and that they maybe want to be prompted and know how to connect with their spirit baby along that path. So then we're looking at follow-up spirit baby readings for that type of stuff as well. And I always say to anybody, I'm here for as much as you need the support. So I help to empower, like, where and when are you feeling off? When does a block start to feel like a block versus I'm feeling really good and open, I need to learn to trust that. And that's when we start to work with like intuitive booking times as well. So that's typically how we start in working with me with spirit babies in general. Is we always have to start with an initial reading, and then we work on to follow-up support.
And you have certain things that people can purchase through your website to work with on home, right?
Yes. So I have an at-home bundle. This is something that I felt passionate about because, like many, we have a reading and then people go home and go, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to meditate. I mean, I had to learn how to meditate too. People just don't, we don't just know how if we don't know how. So I started to marinate on that. Like, how can I create something for clients to have access to in their home that feels very guided, prompted, safe? And as we know, anything in life, especially when we look at just fertility, it's rarely just the reproductive. It's rarely just fertility. It is a personal journey. It's an enlightened experience, right? So I wanted to create something where not only were you going to get fertility and conception prompts and learn how to do this with your spirit baby, but I wanted to have other programs in there that could maybe activate or serve as like a personal journey as well, that might get you thinking outside of fertility, where is my heart maybe feeling misaligned right now? So I created a 12. It started out, I was going to do one and then maybe three. And then I was like, no, it's 12. So it was this like small project. And then it kind of became this like kind of medium project. And then it was this really big project, which is how spirit does it, right? How when you're living in, again, a channel, sometimes you don't choose, it just takes you and you got to just follow through. But I created essentially with my guides a 12-piece audible at-home conception program. And they are, prompted with a little bit of maybe teachings, learnings in the very beginning of my audible segment. And then we go into a beautiful guided journey to access the theme of that program. So we start really, beautifully with spirit baby communication. We talk about the ways to communicate, the different forms, styles, kind of a little bit what I mentioned in the beginning. And then we work right into to be guided to meeting that spirit baby and finding a safe place to actually just communicate and work with your spirit baby. And then we move into a heart program, really getting that open, learning how to access some Akashic records, some really, really deep, powerful tools that, again, you can use that not only for fertility, but for anything. And then we start to activate and learn what our conception channels look like in program 3. And moving on, it's into, meeting those conception alignments and channels with our conception partner or perhaps donors, whatever we need to bring in. It is a program that is accessible for all methods and all ways. And then, continuing on, we're looking at unity. How do we unify our energy with our conception partner? How do we ascend into a little bit of our higher self? And also look at spirit baby origin, which is a whole other topic for another day. And then we go into that. We do some karma clearing. We do some womb healing, as well as letting go of some loss. So especially if somebody's coming from a perspective of repetitive loss, maybe not even that they actually had a miscarriage, but repetitive loss of things just not working is still loss. So all of those leading into the grand finale of everything's open. We call in our spirit baby for conception. There's some really interesting tips and tools that I use with that to land that baby into the womb. And again, guided meditation to take you all the way through pregnancy and even birth. So we're really playing it out. And so I do often suggest with that program that you do it in order, because there's a lot of buildable foundational sequencings that lead you into a nice full opening and how to visualize or feel that opening in your body.
That sounds phenomenal.
It's really, really long. It's probably about 10 plus hours of listening.
Wow. It sounds phenomenal. And what would you say to people, okay, having been on the fertility journey myself, with these kinds of things that you can work at your own pace, I would like race through quick. But I'm assuming with something this in-depth and this amazing, would you recommend that people go slowly and do a module and let it land?
Yeah, there's a couple of things and thoughts that's coming in with that. If you go too quickly, you can kind of place yourself in a little bit of sometimes like a healing crisis, which, that can happen. Or you only absorb what you need and then you re-listen and you may be surprised that a new layer reveals itself. So I do say that in my program to re-listen, because when you complete the program, you may actually get something that's activated in you that when you go back to re-listen to a different program, you can suddenly visualize it better, or you can actually do it maybe because you have something that's activated. So, it's really it's really funny because for somebody that was channeling and writing this program, I wasn't doing it at the time for my own conception in any way. But when I was recording it, like when it came time to do 2 or 3 days in a recording studio to get this recorded, I was activating myself so much that I ended up having Kundalini every night. So for those that don't know, Kundalini is a bit of a life force energy in the base of your spine, and it can be activated when you have a spiritual or enlightened experience. So I'm like, my program is, and I'm like all jittery. I'm like, my program is, activating me. So like I was activating myself in this program because I was hitting it within 3 days. So that's kind of because I layer it with some DNA activation in there. So yeah, my suggestion would be intuitively feel like if you feel like I cannot do the next one, I don't want to, then you wait until you feel called to do it. It might be a month, it might be 3 days, it might be 6 months. But typically when you enter any type of spiritual course or book, it is there to open you, activate you, get you to remember on a lot of pieces. And so if there's a repulsion or a stop, then just wait.
And I think that, if you're on a fertility journey and you are more type A and you do just want to do, because there's so much about the fertility journey that is out of your control. You can't do. And I would just encourage you to implement every level and just let it be and just know that it's working in your own perfect timing and your baby's perfect timing. The other thing that's interesting about fertility is your kid has a time that they are meant to be born on this planet. There's a very specific time, because interestingly, I conceived with our work together and through my first IVF when I already knew that my son was coming. I conceived, and he had always told me that he was going to be a Leo. Leo, 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 Leo. And when I conceived, that due date would have been in March. And I was like, that's weird, because he said, oh, well, I guess I'll just go with whatever it is. Well, that ended up being a miscarriage. I ended up miscarrying. And then by the time my body was ready for me to do the next transfer, then his due date ended up making him a Leo. And that was like, I couldn't have anticipated that. That was really interesting. But there is a specific time that your child wants to be on the planet. And he is a Leo. He is Leo, Leo, Leo. He really could not have been born at any other time. And that was that faith always coming back to trusting my baby, trusting my baby, trusting my baby. And now with him Earthside, I can say that was a real practice. I was practicing for being his mom, because there is so much with your kids that is out of your control. So what do you say to people who are on this healing journey where they're getting into alignment so they can meet their babies and they can create the space? What is one thing that you would say to all of those prospective mom and dads?
Yeah, it's interesting because it kind of circles back to, in the very beginning when I said, and this is something that even in my own health journey, is that whatever journey that we're on that feels really hard or resistant is to, yes, not totally push up against the grain, but to meet it in a little bit more of a surrender. But then we got to get curious. Because if we're not curious and we push, we begin to fear it and it becomes our enemy. And we can't come into alignment with anything that's our enemy. But if we get curious and we can sit back and ask it why it's there or what it's doing, and in each layer, and not have as much attachment to it, we create room. We continue to create space and we continue to create flow. It is not your enemy. It's there to show you something. So anything that feels like against you, oh, I can't, it's not working out for me, or it's not this, it's like, we got to go, why? What are you? What is this? So if we can sit more in contemplation, I think it continues to allow us to move through with space. So our heart doesn't close, our channels don't close. And if we're in fear and anger, we just attract more of that. And then we are even more distant from knowing what to do. We're even more distant from what supplement to take. We're more distant from what method we want to start because we have no idea anymore because we've lost ourselves. But if we sit in and kind of just get a little uncomfortable, but also look at that fear and go, what are you? And beyond the fear, why is this story here for me? So the curiosity is something that has served me beyond and has always then led me to greater understanding of my soul and my path. And it's something I wish I did when I was a child.
Mm,
And
that is
when I
so
started my
powerful.
spiritual journey. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because for me, it is every spirit has a time. Are we always privy to that time? Maybe, maybe not. But if we continue to allow alignment, we are open enough that whenever that time is, they can still pop in without us
Hmm.
knowing.
Hmm. And
So
it's
we
always
can
an,
create an alignment to allow that time to just be what it needs to. Fear will shut it down and fear will intercept and resistance, right? So it's about kind of coming into that surrender. But what is surrender really? It's getting curious.
yeah. And I always say it's in retrospect that you're like, oh, that was perfect. Oh,
Yeah,
I
it's when it's
see.
supposed
I
to
can
happen.
see. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
now I understand why that
Mm-hmm.
miscarriage, and now I understand why this took so long. And the parent that I was meant to be to my kids, I could not be that parent until I had gone through a conception journey. I could not be that parent. I would like if we had had our babies when we first started trying when I was 22 years old, I'd be a completely different parent than when they actually came when I was 36. I was 36 when my son was born. I
Mm-hmm.
remember with my daughter
Mm-hmm.
because we tried naturally in between because everyone was like, well, once you've had one kid, it's, it's easy to have a second. So we were open to that. But ultimately, we still needed IVF in order to
Mm-hmm.
conceive my daughter. And when I was going through the IVF round with her, at that point, I was 39 years old, so almost 40. And the doctor showed me all of this information saying, like, Robyn, you make your embryo, then studies show that if you freeze the embryo and then transfer it 2 months later, so your body has a chance, success rate goes up by 70%. Massive
Wow.
numbers.
Mm-hmm.
70%. So this is what they do now. And again, I
Mm-hmm.
was on an IVF journey for 10 years. So it changed a lot from the beginning to the end.
Mm-hmm.
So she's saying this to me, but once again, my child, my spirit baby, had told me she wanted to be a Leo. I have two Leos at home. So she had told me she wanted to be a Leo. And when we were doing this IVF round, if I transferred a fresh embryo and conceived, she would be a Leo. She would be due
Mm-hmm.
smack dab in the middle of Leo time. So
Mm-hmm.
here I am in the office with the doctor who's like, she's known me for 10 years. She's like, I have to tell you the numbers. I have to recommend that you make your embryo, freeze it, and then transfer. And my husband is like, obviously, that's what we're going to do. And I had this still small voice within me that was like, no, it needs to be a fresh transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go against the doctor who had numbers, 70%, and my husband who thought I was absolutely batshit crazy. And I had
Mm-hmm.
to trust this still small voice that
Mm-hmm.
was saying, no, let's do a fresh transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stuck with that. And my doctor was like, well, you've always gone with your intuition. It's worked out pretty well for you in the past. So I support that. I had to tell you the numbers.
Yeah.
So I was afraid, Dee. Like I really was. What
Yeah.
if I fuck this up? What if this was my only chance? And now at this point, like, this was now our fifth full round of IVF. This was now our ninth embryo transfer. Like this was it for us. My husband was 51 years old. He's like, we're not doing this again. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I have one chance, one shot. Am I really going to throw it away with both hands by not freezing the embryo, by doing it fresh? So I was warring. It was between
Mm-hmm.
my head and my heart and my gut. And at the end of the day, I chose to trust what I thought my baby was telling me. And with that round, we only had one embryo.
Mm-hmm.
And on day 5, she was the only one left. And we
Mm-hmm.
transferred that embryo, that fresh embryo. And that is my daughter.
That is her. I know. Oof, gives me shivers.
And what if we had frozen it and we lost the embryo or what? Like, who knows? Who knows
Mm-hmm.
what? But
Yeah.
she was born smack dab in the middle of Leo time. She is a
Yeah.
Leo. So it's interesting, that they both shared that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that conversation because when you're in deep communication and you're affirming something, like you said, it gets really locked in that subconscious, right? So whether it's right or wrong, it's your truth. right? And so that's what you believe is going to be successful. You have to follow through with that, right? She's really saying like, I'm locking that in, mom. Like and if you do something different, then you got to do the work to undo that. Otherwise, it's kind of not going to be in your full power. So
Mm-hmm.
your deepest conviction, if it's not where you want it to be, you got to change that, which is why I love what you do with hypnotherapy. I think things like hypnotherapy, I find any types of coaching or mindsets pieces can be really powerful. If a client comes to me and I can sense that there's something that they're wanting to get to, we'll do work on it. To me, it comes through more of an energy healing or a guided regression, but nothing like clinical hypnotherapists would do, or like a very specific mindset fertility coach. But those can definitely be powerful tools, because that deep purpose, that conviction, your third eye, like what you know is what's deep in there, is your truth. And if it's not in alignment with the method or how you're going about doing it, there is already a mismatch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's why we work so well
Yeah.
together. We can pass clients back and forth. We often share
Mm-hmm.
clients just because we do
Yeah.
different things. We do different things and they complement each other so, so beautifully. And when I was conceiving my kids, I worked with you and I worked with a clinical
Yeah.
hypnotherapist,
I remember.
actually.
Yes.
And I did
Yeah.
both.
I love it.
It was such a nice. So we're bumping right
Yeah,
up
I
against our
know.
time here. We could
I
talk
know.
forever. Thank you for
Oh,
being
thanks for
here.
having me.
And where can people find
Yeah,
you?
I'm super easy.
What?
DeanneCrewe.com. All my offerings are on there. I'm just launching Spirit Baby Circles. So you'll find some more group, activities for those that prefer group work or just want to try that. I'm going to have November 1st coming a conception activation series. It's a 6-week series. So lots of new things on there. And if you want more social content or little tidbits or things like that, I'm DeanneCrewe_intuitive on Instagram. Those are my two main places. Email me for questions, message. I'm super open to receiving that. So yeah.
Great. And I'll put your website on there too, so that people can go
Perfect.
to find that 12-step
Yeah.
program.
And their free gift.
And
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
free gift.
Okay. So free gift on
Yes,
your
it's
website.
right on the landing page. They'll see. And if they want to learn more about the program, they can go to the conception program page, and it's also on there too. Yeah.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you
Thank you
so
for
much. I
having me. It was so
appreciate
much
you.
fun. We could talk forever.
Thank you for being here.
Awesome.
I know.
Yeah.
Next time. We'll have you
Okay.
back. Okay.
Much love. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for joining me today on the Hypnotic Empath. If this episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you'd follow the show, leave a 5-star review, or share with somebody who needs this kind of support. You can find more resources, hypnotherapy audios, and ways to work with me at robynholm.com. And don't forget, your sensitivity is not a weakness. It's a gift. Stay rooted in your power, and I'll see you next time.